Hey family, welcome back to the Live Fancy podcast entitled Think Fancy, a place where we discuss concepts, ideas, perspectives, and insights that will cause you to truly think fancy, to make the mental choice to foster achievement, never compromising you. I believe there is greatness on the inside of you, and I am committed to helping you release it. Why? Because someone is waiting for you. Before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has been on this journey with me in these podcasts. Whether you have been with me through season 1 through 3 and are now enjoying season 4, or if this is even your first season, maybe even your first episode, thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me a moment to enter into your homes or your cars, your space, your day. Thank you for allowing me to share things with you that I truly believe will help you to release greatness and recognize how awesome you already are. So I also want to thank those who have participated in the polls and the Q&As on Spotify. If you haven't had an opportunity to do so, I'm going to encourage you to. If Spotify is your natural place of listening, please feel free to enter your thoughts. Feedback is so appreciated. So I'd love to hear from you. Or if you watched because you saw a post on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, I would love to hear from you. Your feedback, your comments help fuel this podcast to let me know that, number one, people are listening and getting something from it, but also what directions do we need to take? So once again, from the whole of my heart, thank you. And now for this week's episode. All throughout this season, we've been talking about embracing change, realizing that change is inevitable. It's already happening. It's around us. It's necessary. And as we continue on that same theme, this particular episode is one that takes a minute to really settle in and to accept. At least it has been for me. This week, we are talking about the truth that comfort is optional. When we're talking about change, comfort is optional. As a matter of fact, usually comfort is absent because the reality is that change is typically uncomfortable, meaning there is no comfort or the comfort is very small. But the reality is that we need to understand that comfort is optional. In other words, it is not required. It is not needed, although it may be desired. Now, I did see a quote that I think truly helps us to go forward in this concept, and it's by Arnold Bennett. And it says, any change, even a change for the better, is always accompanied by discomforts. And that's so true. Any change, whether it's a change for the good, a change for the bad, hopefully not so much, or whether it's just simply a change, whatever it may be, it's always accompanied by discomfort. Why? Because when things change, it means that what we're used to, what we've become accustomed to, what we've become or what we used to like even is now changing. It's different. It's gone. It looks different. And so when we're in those moments, it's uncomfortable. And again, this goes back into the whole concept of what it means to truly embrace change, what it means to accept change, to grab hold of it, to grasp it. Why? Because when I get uncomfortable, naturally, I generally try to do something that returns me to my comfort. For example, if you're not necessarily comfortable in large crowds or in social settings, the thing to do if you have to go to the social setting or you have to go to a place where you're surrounded by crowds is to find a quiet place to be by yourself. Why? That's your comfort zone. I might be surrounded by this environment that I'm not comfortable in, so let me find my place of comfort. But the reality is, if you're trying to change that, if you're trying to become more social, if you're trying to embody more confidence and boldness, then that means even in a situation that might be different than your norm, you still have to embrace change. You still have to be willing to go outside of your comfort zone in order to allow that change to start to take place in your life. And again, that's uncomfortable. It's undesirable at times, but it's necessary. Because in order for us to release greatness, in order for us to walk in the fullness of what we have been created and designed to do, it is inevitable that we change in different areas all throughout our life. What used to be okay for where we were in the season we were in may not be okay for the season that we're going to. Comfort, though, is optional. Now, it was interesting when I was thinking about even the title for this, because it's a reality that we have to get into our minds that I don't have to be comfortable, but I can be. And that's the thing that was so interesting about this whole concept, because we can just embrace it. This is just going to be uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. But instead, sometimes we might be able to find a way to be comfortable, even in the midst of discomfort. What in the world? So let's look at a definition or a few descriptions of what comfort is. And I think that will help us to bring it all together. Now, the Collins Dictionary says that if you are doing something in comfort, you are physically relaxed and contented and are not feeling any pain or other unpleasant sensations. And that seems simple enough. Okay, if I'm doing something, I'm physically relaxed and contented. The reality is, though, that being physically relaxed and contented is a decision and a choice. You can be in a situation that would typically cause you angst, anxiety, discomfort, and make a decision to be comfortable. And that's why comfort is optional. It's not that it's not present and it's not possible. It's optional. You have a decision to make about whether or not, while you're going through this change, you will or will not be comfortable. It's your choice. The other thing is that the feelings that we have that are associated with discomfort or being uncomfortable are that. They're typically feelings. They're the way that we see things. They're the way that we perceive things. They're the way that we kind of position them in our mind and tell ourselves how we should be responding to certain circumstances or stimuli. It's a choice. Another example that I can think of is, let's say I'm going through a change at work. There are some different things that are going on and I don't like it. Let's say my management is changing. And number one, I can't control that. I have no control over what the company decides to do or how and what direction they choose to go in. I can't change that. I might want to provide input. I might hope that they would be willing to listen to my perspective, but at the end of the day, I can't control it. What does that mean? Change is coming, change is happening, and I cannot control it. Remember, we said control is an illusion. No matter what I think I can do, the reality is the decision is someone else's, and I can't control that. So in the midst of that, I can fight against it, and I can try to find different ways to suss out this new manager. I can find different ways to make their life uncomfortable. I can do all the different things. I can complain about it. I can say why I don't think that this is fair, all the different things that I can do. Or I can say, how can I learn from this person? What ways can we together in a partnership continue to move this department forward, this company forward, my career forward, and how can I also help them to succeed? Because when I succeed, they succeed. When they succeed, I should succeed. And so it's a change in how I think, and in changing that, it allows me to be more relaxed. It allows me to not feel so much angst or anxiety, because I'm making a decision to recognize my comfort in this situation is entirely optional, and it's my choice. Now, the Collins Dictionary defines comfort as a state of ease and quiet enjoyment, free from worry, pain, or trouble. Again, it's a state of ease and a quiet enjoyment, free from worry, pain, or trouble. The interesting part about that is it's a state of ease. It's not a place of ease. It's not a place that you can drive to or go to or hide in. It's a state. And that state is a state of mind. It's a state of mind of ease and quiet enjoyment. And that's why it's optional. It's a choice. It's a decision. You can find comfort in change if you choose to. But we don't. Why? Here are some reasons why we are unable to choose being comfortable in change. Number one, we talked about it a little bit earlier, because it's different. Change is different. I liked the way things were. Let's say again, in that example of my manager changing, I liked my previous manager. We built a good rapport. We built a good understanding. We even had a slight friendship. I knew that they had my back. I knew that they had my best interest at heart. I really felt like this was a good arrangement. And now that's changing. And it's different. You're a different person. And now I have to shift to what you might be like. And following along in that same example, the other reason is because it's unknown. I don't know you. I don't know the way that you respond to things. I don't know how do you empower your employees? How do you protect your employees? How do you advocate for your employees? How do you handle situations that are uncomfortable for you? What is your management style? What is your personality style? Will that work well with my personality style? How are things going to go? It's uncomfortable because it's different and it's unknown. I don't know what's going on and I don't like it. And so I'm uncomfortable. Different and uncomfortable. Unknown, uncomfortable. But again, in both of those situations, comfort is optional. And the way that I get to that state of ease and quiet enjoyment means I now need to do something. The other thing about it being a state of a thing, being a state of mind or a state of being, is that it requires action on my part because I can't control change. I can't stop it. I have to embrace it. But that means I also need to respond to it. Means I need to do something. And if I choose that to have comfort, if I want to be comfortable, I have to be willing to make action steps. I need to be willing to do activities. I need to be willing to do something that will help me to be comfortable in a state or in a situation that I have no control over. The very simple thought of that, it just seems so out of whack. It's like, what do you mean? I don't have any control over this. Everything is just happening to me. But what if we thought about it as happening for me? And we'll talk about that in a future episode about how we think about change. But in this moment just now, it's a reality that, yes, it's happening to you. It's happening around you, but it is happening for you because there is an opportunity in that moment. There's an opportunity with this new manager. Apparently, there's a reason why this manager is there. Maybe because the other person needed to move on so that they can continue to advance their career, which means this person is looking to advance their career. Or maybe it's because they have more experience in this area and they will be able to help not only the company to advance, but the department to grow and thereby the employees under their leadership to grow. Maybe there are things within this situation and circumstance that have the potential to help you be better. But you won't be able to truly embrace those as easily until you are able to embrace that this change is happening. And if you want to go forward in this change without angst, without feelings of pain or unpleasant sensations, then you have to make a decision that you want to embody, embrace, and empower comfort. Because again, it's optional and it's a choice. Let's think about this in other areas. Let's say, again, that there's a change that's going on that is not seemingly for your good. It seems like it is drastically changing everything and it's bad. Let's say that you had a change in your relationship and your relationship was going swimmingly. You and your partner, you and your husband, you and your wife, you all were doing so well and something came and it was a tragedy and it was horrible. Whatever it might be, and I don't want to speak negative things. So just imagine that something came and it ran ramshot in your relationship. It shook it to the core. And it's requiring a change in how you and your partner, you and your spouse now respond to one another. This change is completely uncomfortable. And it was brought on by something that seemed unnecessary and unfair. And there's nothing that you could have done to prevent it. And now you have to deal with it. How do I find comfort in the middle of tragedy? How do I find comfort in the middle of a change that I didn't ask for and it does not look like it will be for my good at all? I just have to suck it up and deal with it. How do I find quiet enjoyment in that? That's a tough one because we deal with challenges often that shake us to our core. I can speak from personal experience about when my husband passed away. It was a change to my whole life. It was something that was unnecessary in my mind, definitely unexpected and uncalled for, and most most emphatically unfair. It was something that I did not understand how or why this is happening. One moment he was here, the next he was gone. I didn't understand. How did I find comfort in that? Sure, I found comfort in knowing that he was in a better place, but that didn't give me comfort in my life that had just changed. The dreams that we had were gone because he and I can't fulfill them together. The plans that we made are now null and void because he's not here. It was a change, and it was extremely uncomfortable. But in that moment, I had to find and choose comfort. I had to find my state of ease and quiet enjoyment. And how did I do that? I began to focus on a couple of things. One, I focused on what we did have. Sometimes when we get into situations that are traumatic, we forget everything that happened before and we dismiss it or we throw it out like it's no longer valid, important, or it didn't carry value, it didn't carry weight, but it did. The life that we had together meant something, and it still does. And it still brings me joy as I think about what we shared together and how our lives just went so well together. Sure, it saddens me that it didn't continue, but it still brings me joy to think about what we did have and what we did accomplish and what we did do together and the love that we had for one another. The other thing that helped me is to remember how I grew in our relationship and the things that he told me and showed me to help me to be great. And even as I go through my days now, 4.5 years later, I still hear his voice reminding me about the things that he believed in me about, how he would push me to go forward. I also remember the things that he taught me and how to be a better communicator and how to be a better listener and all of those things. Those things still matter. And so the biggest thing that I did to find comfort in that tragedy was to remember all of the things that did matter beforehand because they still matter now. His presence, his physical presence may not be here, but he still is. He is always and always will be in my heart. And he made an impression on me that is undeniable. And so I find comfort in that. And I find quiet enjoyment. And I think that word quiet enjoyment is so important because it's not a shout. I'm not going around shouting, oh, this is so great because, it's just a lingering memory. I'm not shouting that, but I'm finding quiet ways to enjoy the impact he made on my life. The other biggest comfort in my scenario is what he left me, and that's my daughter. I am forever grateful for her. I am forever grateful for the change that she has made in my life that is, again, undeniable, unmatched. I've never experienced anything like it. And I will forever be grateful that because of him, I have her. Now, your situation may be different. Your situation could be a little lighter. It could be a lot heavier. But whatever your situation, I want you to think and remind yourself of the good in it. And even to do so might not come easily at first. More likely, it probably won't. But you have the ability to make a decision over time to find your state of ease, your state of quiet enjoyment, your state of freedom from pain. Maybe it requires therapy. Maybe it requires more time in your community. Maybe it requires more time in the presence of God. But you can find it. It is possible. It is optional. It is available. It is a choice. And in order for us to truly release greatness, we have to be willing to take the steps for us to embrace change and find our own comfort. And then we will be able to share that with others who may go through the same thing or something similar, or more importantly, who can just relate to what we're saying and let them know they're okay too. Because sometimes that's the most simple thing in the reality that someone is waiting for you. I truly hope you are charged up as a result of this week's episode of Think Fancy. You have too much on the inside of you to just listen, so now you are empowered to do. You are indeed well able, fully capable and properly equipped to do everything you were created and designed to do. Make this week a great one.